We are counting down the 11 outboard engine types that have become financial disasters for buyers in 2025. From high-strung power plants with hidden mechanical time bombs to categories crippled by disappearing parts, legal bans, or digital deception, these engines have lost nearly all their value. Too often, buyers do not see the warning signs until it is too late. Which outboard sits at the very bottom of the risk spectrum? Let us start the countdown with number 11. Number 11, high RPM performance outboards. These engines were built for speed, tuned to squeeze every last bit of power from lightweight blocks and aggressive ignition timing. But the same features that make them thrilling on the water become financial traps once the warranty expires. Rod-bearing failures are common, and the mean time between overhauls is far shorter than with standard engines, sometimes less than half. Vibration and heat push internal components to their limits, leaving the bottom end vulnerable to sudden, catastrophic failure. When a rebuild is required, estimates often exceed the market value of the engine. Even experienced racers understand the risk. Auction data shows that most of these outboards are worth less than their repair bills by year 5. A small group of enthusiasts keep some demand alive, but for most buyers, these engines are a countdown to zero. Number 10. Budget imported clone outboards. These engines arrive in plain boxes, and they are offered at prices that seem impossible to match. For buyers, the lure is obvious. Brand new power for half the cost of a used name brand motor. But inside, the story is far less appealing. Metallurgical tests on clone engines sold between 2018 and 2025 reveal porous castings and brittle crankshafts, with up to 5 times the failure rate of established brands. Consumer watchdogs have flagged these outboards for catastrophic breakdowns, including crank fractures, gear case shearing, and sudden coolant leaks, often within a single season. When trouble strikes, owners discover there is no warranty, no dealer network, and no reliable source for replacement parts. Even insurance companies treat clones as uninsurable by year 2, valuing them only as scrap. For those tempted by the low price, the real cost is hidden. Total loss, zero support, and a resale value that vanishes almost overnight. Number 9. Do-it-yourself rebuilt specials. On the surface, these engines look like bargains, with fresh paint, polished covers, and the promise of a full overhaul. But beneath the cosmetic upgrades, the real story often stays hidden. Teardowns at marine workshops reveal reused bearings, mismatched gaskets, and skipped torque specs. Shortcuts that turn a supposed rebuild into a ticking time bomb. Many sellers offer no paperwork or service records, making it impossible to verify what was done. Shops routinely decline warranty work on undocumented rebuilds, citing too many cases where engines failed within months. For buyers, the risk is nearly invisible. A coat of paint hides worn crank journals and pitted rods, while a shiny sticker means nothing if the internals are original and tired. Some engines can be salvaged if a professional shop handled the work, with receipts and detailed logs to prove it. But for most do-it-yourself specials, what you see on the outside is just a decoy, leaving buyers with a financial trap disguised as a deal. Number 8. Outdated carbureted outboards. These engines once powered fleets across lakes and bays, but in 2025 they face a double threat: regulatory bans and a vanishing supply of basic parts. Emissions rules in states like California and New York now bar the sale or registration of non-compliant carbureted outboards, effectively locking them out of legal resale markets. For those still running, even routine maintenance has become a scavenger hunt. Carburetor rebuild kits, float needles, and jet assemblies are scarce, with prices climbing as inventories dry up. Dealers report that a single missing gasket or jet can mean weeks of searching, and many shops refuse service altogether, citing the risk of getting stuck with an unrepairable engine. Auction data from 2024 shows a steep decline in value the moment a key part is discontinued, sometimes dropping by half in a single quarter. Even engines that still run well are caught in a death spiral. As parts disappear, fewer mechanics will touch them, and legal restrictions seal their fate. The result is a category that is rapidly becoming unserviceable, not from wear, but from enforced obsolescence and empty parts shelves. This is outdated equipment pushed toward obsolescence. Number 7. High-hour two-stroke outboards. By 2025, thousands of these engines have crossed the 1,000-hour mark, with many showing the scars of hard use. Owners once believed that regular oil changes and careful storage could keep these motors alive forever. But the reality is less forgiving. Scored cylinders, worn crank bearings, and failing oil injection systems haunt the majority of legacy two-stroke engines now found in online listings. Mechanics report that even engines with smooth idle and strong compression can suffer sudden failure when a bearing lets go, or an oil pump clogs, starving the internals in seconds. Auction records show a steep drop in value after 1,000 hours, often to scrap metal pricing, because buyers know the next breakdown could be fatal. For most sellers, there is no market left. Dealers refuse trade-ins, and private buyers walk away after hearing a faint bottom-end rattle or seeing a service log with 4 digits in the hour column. These engines are not just old, they are living on borrowed time, and the market knows it. Number 6. Flood salvage outboards. After the record hurricanes of 2021, hundreds of waterlogged engines hit auction blocks across the Gulf Coast, snapped up for pennies on the dollar. Sellers scrubbed away the mud, reset hour meters, and relisted them as low-hour bargains. But the real damage stays hidden deep inside. Water intrusion leaves a trail, milky oil in the crankcase, rust on spark plugs, and pitting along every barren surface. Even a careful exterior clean cannot undo the chemical rot that starts the moment salt water floods the block. Technicians report that most of these engines fail in less than 9 months, often without warning. Early signs are subtle: a faint knock, a sticky starter, or a sheen of white emulsion under the oil cap. By then, corrosion has already eaten through bearing races and electrical contacts. Diagnostic shops have learned to spot the clues. Pull a plug, check for rust, swirl the oil in a clear cup. For buyers, the risk is nearly impossible to spot until it is too late. The resale market knows the truth. Once an engine's flood history is revealed, its value collapses to scrap. Disaster does not just haunt the past, it lingers, hidden in every bargain that is too good to be true. Number 5. Corrosion-prone midsections. Outboard engines built with cost-cutting alloys and poor sealing have a hidden enemy lurking deep inside, ROT, that starts where the eye cannot see. Salt water finds its way past gaskets and seams, creeping into exhaust housings and mounting brackets. Over time, the metal weakens from within, leaving only a thin shell to hold the weight of the power head. Technicians document 5 main failure patterns. They are internal exhaust corrosion that eats through passage walls, pitting near water channels that causes overheating, bolt and bracket corrosion that leaves engines barely secured, sheared studs from expanding rust, and cracks at mounting points after years of salt exposure. The real danger is invisibility. Even engines that look clean on the outside can be one trip away from disaster. A simple percussion test, a light tap with a hammer, can reveal a hollow, dead sound instead of a solid ring. Borescope cameras snaked into exhaust passages show jagged rust and flaking metal long before symptoms appear on the surface. Once the rot is found, repair bills run from $1,500 to $3,000 in parts and labor, often more than the engine's entire value. Insurance adjusters routinely total outboards for these failures. Auction data from 2024 shows resale values dropping by as much as 90%, within months of a key part's discontinuation. Some lightly used engines survive, but for most, the midsection is a silent time bomb that turns a working outboard into scrap. Number 4. First-generation electronic fuel injection and direct injection outboards. These engines once stood at the cutting edge, promising smoother running and better fuel economy than anything that came before. But the technology that made them modern is now their undoing. Early electronic fuel systems, especially those built between the late 1990s and 2005, are failing in ways that cannot be patched with basic tools. Injector faults and unstable mapping have become routine, leaving owners with engines that stumble, surge, or refuse to start. Melted wiring harnesses and brittle connectors are common, the result of decades of heat and vibration working through unprotected looms. The real breaking point comes with the electronic control unit. By 2025, most original control units are discontinued, and used replacements are rare, expensive, or already compromised. Marine technicians report that up to 40% of first-generation electronic fuel injection or direct injection engines brought in for teardown have unrepairable electronics, including injectors that cannot be sourced, logic boards that will not communicate, and harnesses that have fused into solid plastic. Classified ads are flooded with unsold listings, many described as needs minor repair or will not idle. For buyers, the risk is not just a costly fix. It is the possibility of a dead engine with no path back. Some parts can still be found, but every year another critical piece disappears. The promise of early electronic control has faded, replaced by a new reality. Without support, these engines are stranded by their own complexity. Number 3. Gray market and non-certified outboards. These engines arrive with promises of unbeatable value, but their fate is sealed long before the first turn of the key. California enforces emissions laws through the California Air Resources Board so strictly that any outboard lacking full Environmental Protection Agency and California Air Resources Board certification is barred from registration. No exceptions, no appeals. DMV agents routinely deny titles for engines with foreign labels or missing compliance stickers, and marina inspectors conduct spot checks that leave boats red-tagged and sidelined. New York has followed suit, blocking registration for any engine from after 2007 that cannot prove emissions compliance. Owners caught with non-certified imports face not just paperwork headaches, but outright seizure or forced removal from state waters. Auction records from 2024 show that resale value for these engines in restricted states has collapsed to near zero. Even in regions without blanket bans, local ordinances and marina rules make it nearly impossible to sell or insure a non-certified outboard. Dealers warn that a gray market engine, no matter how well it runs, is a dead end, unsellable, uninsurable, and legally stranded. The buyer pool shrinks to a handful of risk takers willing to gamble on slipping through regulatory cracks. For everyone else, these engines represent a total loss on day one, not because of mechanical failure, but because the law itself writes them off. In 2025, the market does not care if the engine is spotless or freshly serviced. Without a valid certification label, it is just expensive ballast, locked out of legal use and resale by the stroke of a pen. Number 2. Reflashed and re-rolled hour meter engines. In the rush for a bargain, nothing draws buyers faster than a digital dash showing impossibly low hours. But behind the glow of those numbers, a new form of deception has taken hold. Industry sources report a dramatic rise in hour meter tampering since 2020, with forensic shops now flagging mismatches between dashboard displays and the engine internal ECU logs on a regular basis. The process is simple. A seller resets or replaces the visible hour meter, wiping away years of hard use in minutes. The engine looks fresh, the price seems right, But the true story is buried in silicon, a story only revealed when a dealer plugs in a scan tool and pulls the real runtime from the ECU memory. Inspections often uncover engines with worn controls, faded paint, and corroded bolts, all claiming fewer than 100 hours. Compression numbers and internal wear tell a different tale. Mechanics describe cases where an engine dashboard reads 80 hours, but the ECU log shows 1,200 hours, enough time for crank bearings to be at the end of their life, injectors to be clogged, and wiring harnesses to have seen a decade of heat. For buyers, the risk goes beyond wasted money. Once excessive wear is discovered, legal recourse is limited. Most private sales are sold as is, and proven fraud after the fact is nearly impossible. The scale of the problem is hard to ignore. Workshop reports and auction data point to a 300% surge in detected rollbacks since 2020. Listings for low-hour engines now come with a warning. What you see on the dash may be a carefully crafted illusion. Forensic checks are no longer optional. They are the only way to separate truth from fiction. In today's market, trusting a digital hour reading without backing it up with an ECU scan and a physical inspection is a gamble few can afford. Tampered engines do not just hide hours, they hide every failure that comes with them, masking the kind of wear that turns a supposed deal into a ticking time bomb. A single dealer bulletin can wipe out the value of thousands of outboards overnight. In 2024, when a major manufacturer announced the end of midsection and lower unit production for engines made before 2010, the response was immediate. Auction values for those models fell by more than 60% within 3 months. Trade-in offers stopped entirely. Service departments posted blacklists, refusing to accept engines that could no longer be repaired. For owners, the reality set in fast. Without a source for critical castings or proprietary electronics, even a minor breakdown could turn a running outboard into permanent dead weight. The collapse is not gradual. It happens the moment a key part is declared no longer available. One missing gear case, a discontinued electronic control unit, or an obsolete exhaust housing, and the entire engine line is functionally unserviceable. Dealers report invoice totals for last-run assemblies climbing from $800 to over $3,000 in a matter of months, if stock exists at all. Salvage yards become the only hope, but even there, competition for usable cores drives prices higher. In some regions, brokers buy up remaining inventories and resell them overseas, leaving domestic buyers with empty shelves and no path to repair. Aftermarket suppliers fill a few gaps, offering gaskets, seals, and basic service items. But for major components, midsections, lower units, and electronic control units, the supply dries up. Remanufacturers face their own limits, relying on old stock or donor engines that are themselves corroded or incomplete. Some owners turn to custom machine shops or 3D printing for non-critical parts, but for most, the cost and risk outweigh any hope of restoration. As a result, engines that once held steady value lose up to 90% of their resale price in a single quarter after a discontinuation memo. Dealer service managers describe the aftermath in blunt terms. When the main midsection stock-keeping unit was pulled, resale for that model collapsed overnight. Nobody wanted inventory they could not repair. Empty bins lined the parts warehouses, and service advisors warned buyers to verify availability before closing any deal. The lesson is clear. No matter how well an engine runs, it is only worth as much as its weakest, most irreplaceable part. In 2025, the ultimate reason an outboard becomes worthless is not wear, corrosion, or even a blown power head. It is the silent, irreversible end of part support. A single missing component, and what was once a powerful machine becomes nothing more than a paperweight. Across all 11 categories, one pattern dominates. Obsolescence is not just about age, it is about support vanishing. regulations tightening, and technology leaving old engines behind. Today, every outdated outboard risks becoming an anchor on your wallet and on your time. The real cost is not just depreciation, it is being stranded by progress. In 2025, knowledge is the only safeguard against worthless machinery.